If someone gets defensive the second you disagree with them, if they've made the exact same mistake 5 times and still don't see the pattern, if they think being loud means being right, psychologists say that's not just a personality quirk. It might be one of 6 very specific signs of low cognitive function. And by the time we get to sign number 4, you're probably going to think of someone you know, maybe even yourself. Welcome back to Mind Cipher. IQ tests get a lot of criticism, and honestly, some of that criticism is fair. A number on a test doesn't capture everything about how a mind works. But researchers who study intelligence have noticed something interesting. Certain behaviors show up again and again in people who score lower on cognitive measures, regardless of their background, their job, or how educated they are. These aren't insults, they're patterns. And once you see them, you can't unsee them in the world around you and sometimes in yourself. So let's break down the 6 most well-documented ones, starting with the one almost nobody expects. Sign 1. The Dunning-Kruger effect. Confident about things they know the least about. In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger ran a study that changed how we talk about intelligence. They tested people on grammar, logic, and humor, then asked each person how well they thought they did. The pattern was almost eerie. The worst performers weren't just wrong about their scores. They were the most confident they'd done well. Meanwhile, the top performers actually underestimated themselves. Here's why this happens. Understanding a subject well enough to know what you're missing requires the same skill as being good at that subject in the first place. So, someone with low competence doesn't just lack the answer. They lack the ability to see that they're wrong. It's a blind spot they can't detect from the inside. You've seen this. The coworker who's never managed a team confidently explaining leadership to someone who's led for 20 years. The person who read one article and now argues with a doctor. It's not arrogance in the traditional sense. It's a genuine inability to measure their own limits. Sign 2. Difficulty with nuance. Everything is black and white. Lower cognitive flexibility often shows up as a need to sort the world into simple categories. Good or bad, right or wrong, us or them. Complex issues, the kind that require holding 2 conflicting truths at once, get flattened into one simple story, because that's easier to process. Psychologists call this need for cognitive closure. Everyone has some of it. But research shows that people with lower measured intelligence tend to have a much stronger preference for quick, certain answers over sitting with ambiguity. Nuance feels uncomfortable, so the brain resolves that discomfort by picking a side and refusing to look at the other one. Those 2 are the ones people can usually spot in others pretty easily. But the next 2? These are the signs that show up in relationships, at work, in arguments. The ones that quietly wreck people's lives without them ever realizing why. Sign 3. Refusing to update their beliefs, even when shown clear evidence. Here's a subtle distinction. Everyone resists being wrong sometimes. That's human. But there's a difference between being stubborn and being cognitively rigid. Cognitive rigidity is the inability to update a belief even when new information directly contradicts it. Not won't, can't. Studies on fluid intelligence, the ability to reason and solve new problems, show it's directly linked to how easily someone can revise a mental model. Higher fluid intelligence means faster belief updating. Lower fluid intelligence means the original belief stays locked in place, and any contradicting evidence gets explained away, ignored, or attacked instead of considered. This is why some arguments feel completely pointless. You're not actually disagreeing about facts anymore. You're watching someone's brain reject information it isn't equipped to integrate. Sign 4. Poor impulse control. Acting before thinking through consequences. This one surprises people because we tend to think of intelligence as purely academic. But impulse control lives in the prefrontal cortex. the same region responsible for reasoning, planning, and weighing long-term outcomes. When that region is less developed or less engaged, both abilities suffer together. Research on delayed gratification, going back to the famous Stanford marshmallow studies, found that the ability to wait for a better reward later, instead of grabbing a smaller reward now, correlated with stronger cognitive and academic outcomes years down the line. It's not really about willpower. It's about whether the brain can accurately simulate the future and let that simulation guide the present decision. People who struggle with this aren't reckless on purpose. Their brain is quite literally weighting right now far more heavily than later, because the mental machinery for modeling later isn't running at full strength. Now here's where it gets personal, because the last two signs aren't about how someone treats other people. They're about how someone treats their own mistakes. And this is the part where a lot of you are going to start thinking about your own habits, not just someone else's. Sign 5. Repeating the same mistakes without adjusting. Learning from a mistake requires a specific mental sequence. Notice the error, identify the cause, generalize the lesson, and apply it to a different situation next time. Each step depends on working memory and abstract reasoning, both of which are core components of measured intelligence. When that sequence breaks down, people don't fail to learn because they don't care. They fail to learn because they can't complete the pattern recognition step. They experience the same bad outcome as a series of disconnected, unlucky events instead of a repeating cause they created. That's why you'll meet people who've had the same argument, the same financial mistake, or the same failed relationship pattern play out 3, 4, 5 times. And each time, it genuinely feels brand new to them. Sign 6. Struggling with abstract or hypothetical thinking. This is the most overlooked sign, because it doesn't look like not being smart. It looks like being extremely literal. Someone asked a hypothetical question responds with, "Well, that would never actually happen," instead of engaging with the idea. Metaphors get taken at face value. Sarcasm gets missed entirely. Big picture, what if thinking feels unnecessary or even irritating to them, because the mind naturally gravitates toward the concrete and immediate. Piaget, the psychologist famous for mapping how children's thinking develops, identified abstract reasoning as one of the last cognitive skills to fully mature. And research since then shows that some adults simply never strengthen it much further. Not because they're incapable of learning facts, but because reasoning about things that aren't directly in front of them takes a different kind of mental muscle. So here's the uncomfortable question. Out of those 6, Dunning-Kruger overconfidence, black and white thinking, refusing to update beliefs, poor impulse control, repeating mistakes, and struggling with abstraction. How many did you count in yourself, honestly? Because here's the twist psychologists actually agree on. Recognizing these patterns in yourself is, itself, evidence of the exact cognitive flexibility that low performers lack. The people this video should worry are the ones who are certain it's not about them. To be clear, none of this is a diagnosis, and a rough patch with 1 or 2 of these signs doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. We all show a couple of these under stress, under pressure, or on a bad day. What matters is the pattern, not the moment. And the fact that you sat through this whole video thinking critically about each point instead of dismissing it, that says more about your mind than any single trait on this list. If this made you rethink someone in your life, or maybe rethink yourself a little, hit subscribe, because we break down the psychology behind human behavior every single week. And tell me in the comments, which of these 6 hit closest to home? I read every single one.